So can you tell me what your name is, please?
Margaret Braid. My maiden name was Farmer.
What's your association with Silverburn? Tell me about you and Silverburn.
Well, I was born at Blackiside Farmhouse on the 5th of September 1938. And my mum was a mother and a housewife. My dad was a milkman at Blackiside. And then the war broke out. So because it was a tied house, we had to get out. So my uncle lived in this house, my uncle and aunt, and he was a gardener here in the gardens. And also my granddad lived with us, and he was in the gardens as well. Then my dad was called up and did his training here somewhere in Scotland, and then he was called up. And my mum and my brother, who's just a wee bit older than me, and myself, and an older brother, all moved into a cottage at Silverburn, which is now the cafe. And across the road, at that time, they called part of it the potting shed. And then the Polish soldiers were billeted in there during the war when we lived in that house. And then my sister was born in that cottage down there. Then shortly after that, we had to get on the move again. And my dad was away, so that was... I can't remember being at Blackiside much, but I can remember being in that cottage. And there was an old lady, well, she maybe wasn't awfully old at that time, but I thought she was an old lady. Mrs. Houston, she lived next door, and I used to go in and she used to get me to help her to bake and different things. And in the very end cottage, there was an old man who we never saw. He was in his bed. And his daughter lived with him, and she was Maggie Braid. And that's no connection to me. And she's funny. Okay. So, and then after we all cleared up for Silverburn and that, my aunt and my uncle still stayed in here till my uncle died, and my Uncle Bill died in 1962. And then shortly after that, my Auntie Lily moved to Leven, but we visited here a lot.
What can you remember about the Polish soldiers?
Well, I can remember they gave my mum silk for the parachutes, and she made different things out of that silk, like wee dresses for us to wear and that. And the Polish soldiers taught me to count to 10. And Polish. I don't know if it's right or no, but they did that.
Can you still do it?
Well, I don't know if it's right, but I remember the first ones were Raz, Dwa, Trzy, Cztery. I think it's Pięć or something like that. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I don't know if that's rubbish. I don't know if that's rubbish or no, but that's what I remember.
That's a bit... Can you remember anything else about them, what they were doing here? Because we haven't got many people who can tell us about the Polish soldiers.
Oh, well...
Can you remember much else about them?
Not really, no. I think they were very friendly people, and I think once they come there, like there weren't many people for them to mix, but like my uncle and my granddad and that, and as we stayed right across the road, they tried to speak English to us. Okay.
So, when your dad was a gardener here, what do you remember? Do you remember being in the gardens with him? Do you remember what it was like?
Not really much, because most of the times the Russells lived here, in the house. And I think it was in Corrimar. I think it's a bit defunct now, but I mean, my uncle telling us a story. Sir David Russell's henchman, you could say. I don't know if that's the right word. But anyway, they used to go on holiday in Iona, and this man was quite a big man. And he they had a chest that were taken to Iona. So the big guy got it on his head or his shoulders, and so David was shouting, put it down, no, I'm fine. And the next thing he crashed into the chandelier. I ken that's a lot of nonsense, but it's just wee things that stay in your head.
Absolutely.
Did you ever meet Sir David?
I saw him, but as a child, like, I just didn't really know.
Can you remember what did he look like? Can you remember anything about him?
I think he was tall and quite grey hair, but I didn't really mind much. Can't mind much.
Did your uncle who lived in this house, how did he feel about Sir David?
I think he was really fond of him. I think he was very good to work for and very kind, And as I say, my granddad, he lived with us in Blackettside and then down here. And he worked in the gardens as well. He was a gardener as well. And it was just, everybody was very happy, I think, And my uncle.
Can you remember anything else about how David Russell was with people? Remember anything? You say he was kind to people.
I think he was kind to people, but because I was wee, I didn't really have much to do with him, but on accounts I've had, he was a kind person,
So when you were living here, do you remember anything about playing in the park at all, or were you too young to remember?
No, I just played around the door, and I could always remember. And I think this is right. At the back of our house, which would be the cafe now, there were steps down, and at the back of the house, and it went right along the back of the houses. Is that still like that? You don't know?
I don't know. I don't get around the houses. Don't know.
Did you ever go into the walled garden that's beyond, just beyond the cottage?
Aye, I have been in it, like when I was just wee,
Yeah. What was it like? Were they using it for growing food, or?
I think partly they grew vegetables, but I think what I mind of the garden, it was lovely. But then I was just a wee kid, so I suppose it was So
can you remember any stories from when you got a bit older of Silverburn? Can you remember anything when you got a bit older?
Well, actually, when I was older, and we came to visit my uncle and aunt, we were only here, and they had the garden lovely, and the back garden was lovely, And I had 3 cousins here, Molly, Lillian and Billy, and only Lillian is left now, but Molly and Lillian moved to Australia, and Bill, my cousin, lived in Glenrothes, but he died 3 years ago. So that was all like my granddad was William Wilson, my Uncle Bill, and then my cousin, all William Wilson.
Long generations, isn't it, really, here? So sort of in the last, later on in your life, have you come back to visit Silverburn?
Well, coming up for 2 years ago, I had to get a new hip. And I lived with Jill and Andy in leaving because I have stairs at home. It was only the second day I got out of the hospital. And one day I had my crutches still, I think, and we came here and walked along, and it was lovely. It was a nice day on a Sunday. That was it.
A great thing to do when you're recovering from something like that, Do you think that Silverburn, particularly the park, do you think it's important for the community?
I think it is.
Tell me, sorry I interrupt you. Tell me what you think about the community in Silverburn.
I'm glad that it's been put to use because it's such a nice place and such a nice area. And we came to the plant sale 2 or 3 weeks ago, got some nice plants and that, So, and then we went to the cafe and had the most delicious cheese scones.
I think they paid you to say that. They are. It's just wonderful, isn't it? So, what do you think about the future for Silverburn? What would you
Well,
hope?
I
What
think,
would you hope?
I think it's really good that
What do you think about the fact they can have a big cafe, huge cafe there?
I suppose that would be good, but as long as I have the cheese scones. I'd be pleased if they have a bigger cafe, but I'd be more pleased if it kept on with the cheese scones. They were lovely. What a nonsense, eh? I didn't have photographs of Silverburn, but I'm going to show you one. This was out there somewhere on a wee wall. That's me. And it was a wee wall outside there. And my mum's got my name written on it. See.
Margaret,
But Neddy.
look at this.
It's not Silverburn.
It doesn't
But
matter.
that's myself and my mum
Yeah.
and my brother, and that was my sister that was born down in that cottage.
Oh, good grief.
And she got that taken to send to my dad when he was away during the war.
He
So
managed to get through the war then, your father.
He got
Was
through the
all
war.
right?
He was quite badly wounded. He was
Yeah.
quite.
Was he?
In fact, he died 23 years ago, but
Yeah.
there was still a bullet in his
Oh,
head. But he was fine. Ken, he was fine. He worked in every week came home. And that, I've just let you see.
It's
That's just because it was my mum and dad that were here.
Yeah.